Okay, so what I'm going to be doing next is building the seats. So the bench seats that are going to be opposite each other in the van. My brains of the operation. So I've actually already built my first one and I wanted to test it out before I filmed it and built the second one. It's going to be pretty much the same, the second one's just going to be a bit longer. So this one is going to house all my electronics, my battery, fuse boxes, and half of my water heater, which is why I've got this cutout here. It's quite ergonomic. It's got this nice reclined seat. I didn't put that in the last van, and you could tell that it was actually not as comfortable because you're sitting upright. So this is actually, I looked up the dimensions of an ergonomic seat. And to access the electronics underneath, I've just got this little lift lid. Now I've got to make the longer one. So the one on the other side, which is on the passenger side, is going to be kind of like a lounge. So have a back on one side and then it's going to protrude past the door. In one side it's going to be storage and the other side it's actually going to sit a toilet. So the side closest to the door is going to be a toilet similar to this, and it's going to lift open. There's going to be a little chemical toilet inside. A problem with this pocket holes is when you try and screw things in and it's not clamped together, the screw can actually jump into a different position, and then when you drill it in, the boards don't, or whatever you're joining doesn't actually line up. So generally when you have the option, you can clamp things in. If you're joining these big pieces like this and you don't have clamps big enough, the way I've found that works the best is if you actually pre-drill the hole by putting the drill in reverse. So it's not screwing in, it's going backwards, but it's kind of pushing in a hole. So all I do is line it up, put my drill in reverse, push it in, creates a little hole where it wants to go in, and then just put it in forward. And it sits nice, and it doesn't move or budge when I go and drill it in. Okay, so this is the box so far. As you can see, that's going to be the seat. It's going to lift up for some storage, and this is the extended seat that goes past the door. So there's going to be a toilet in here that's going to lift up, just a chemical toilet, and then there'll be a bit of storage on that section there, and then there'll be just more storage here. I'll probably cut this hole out on the back of this so I can slot surfboards through the back door. Now I'm going to make the lid for this one, and I think I'm going to wait until I get the toilet to finish this, just because I need to make this seat a little bit lower. So I'm going to cut it around about here, otherwise your legs are going to be hitting that when you go to the toilet. realised after test fitting this that I'm going to want to take the corner off this edge, because when you come into the van here and turn right, you're going to kind of want to kick this corner, so it's going to be a lot nicer if this is trimmed off to that nice edge. So I'll just mark that up and I'm going to cut it. I've just done that now, taking that corner off. It's come out very nice. Just use the table saw to cut the angles at 45. So now I've got to figure out how I'm going to put my toilet in there. So the toilet is just propped up at the moment because it does sit quite a bit lower. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to build a box that elevates the toilet up a bit, and then I'm going to have this whole thing hinge from about here. So I'm going to have to cut along a line here, and then this whole thing will hinge just so when you use the toilet, your legs don't kind of hit this wooden bit. So I'll have to cut around the whole thing here and make a frame that runs around here, so it'll hinge from the back, lift up, and then this will be another little storage box. So then, yeah, when you're using the toilet, you're not going to hit your legs. So I've really quickly just whipped up this little boxy looking thing. So it's got a middle section and then two edges. Elevates the toilet and then also holds the toilet in place. So it's going to sit like this in there. So it lifts the toilet up about 6 centimeters. And then when I put it in here, so you can see the toilet is now kind of raised up a little bit, elevated off the ground there. Okay, I did skip a few steps in filming how to make this bench seat, but basically where I was, I'd made the frame of it and I was just about to cut in the toilet seat. So you can see what I've done here is once I put the lid on, I had to cut down a little bit further because otherwise when you sit on the toilet, your knees or the back of your knees would actually be touching the plywood and it wouldn't be that comfortable. So it kind of hinges now at the back, and it's got a little bit of a lip on it. The one thing I do have left to do is put a gas strut on here so it'll stay up by itself, but you can see the toilet's in here and it's actually elevated from the little stand I made, and you'll be able to sit up here. So when you sit on the toilet now, your bottom of your legs don't touch the seat, which is much more comfortable. So the next thing I did was cut out the seat hatch for this bench seat, and it was pretty easy. From that one big piece of plywood, I used the same insert instead of cutting another piece. And to stop it from actually falling in on itself, I just glued and screwed some 20 by 40 millimeter timber to the side, and that acts as like a little ledge so this thing doesn't fall down. And then just a couple of hinges on there as well. So the last feature of this seat is the latch at the back here, which connects to the garage. And I designed this so I could put the surfboards through the garage and into the back, because obviously the surfboards are too long just for the garage. So this will fold down like so and allow you to slot the surfboards through here if we don't want to put them on the roof rack. Okay, so here's the completed side bench. So I've got the little seat here and the toilet with the gas strut. That just lifts up like this, and that's your chemical toilet with the little bench underneath. So there is a little bit of space around here that we can keep the chemicals for the toilet, some toilet paper and stuff like that. We come out here, there's a little easy latch storage so you can get to the side from the outside. And if we come around the back, where it's a bit of a mess at the moment, there is a latch there that will fold down so I can put surfboards through the side here without having to put them on the roof. So under this seat is where all the electronics are. So I thought, why I have all the van seats and everything out, I'll take you through my electronic setup, because I didn't really make a video of that. I wasn't planning on making a video on how to wire up your camper van, because there's so many videos out there and it's very specific to everyone's needs. But I'll show you how I wired my camper van up, what batteries I use, and all the little bits and pieces that I've got. My brains of the operation is here, so it's going to be under one of my bench seats sits there and just sits on top. So for starters, the power bank, I've got a 130 amp hour lithium deep cycle battery. I bought this on eBay at pre-sale. It was about $450, so quite a cheap lithium battery. And I've heard reviews that they can be good, can be bad, but I'm gonna risk it, go with it, see how it runs. That goes to my main isolator. So my main isolator will just switch the battery, completely turn off everything that comes out of this battery, so I can isolate it for whatever reason. That goes into a fuse, and then this is my MPPT charge controller and DC to DC charger. So this goes to my car battery, and then the solar also comes into the bottom of this. I've isolated the intakes on this too, so my starter isolator is here. So if I want to stop power coming to this kind of system from my starter battery, I can turn that off. So, you know, that might be handy if I'm working on this, or if something goes wrong and I have to switch it off. So the other bits and pieces I've got in here is I've got my battery shunt. So that goes directly to my negative terminal of my battery, and everything that runs through my negative terminal runs through the shunt first. So that is how my battery monitor, which I've got located on the wall up here, figures out how much power is coming in and out of the battery. So for my kind of bus bars, I didn't really get a proper bus bar. I've just got these big nuts and washers. So this is my negative bus bar and this is my positive bus bar. So all the actual wiring is on the other side. I'll show you what it looks like. That's why this front is nice and neat, because all the other connections are pretty much on the other side. But yeah, everything that goes into the negative terminal comes through here first, then goes into this shunt, and then goes into the battery. The positive side, so this isolator goes through here to the other side and then comes out to this nut here, and that's where all my positive terminals are connected to. So that goes to my fuse box. So this is all my 12 volt fuse stuff. That goes, you know, all water heater, reading light, fan, all the lights, you know, heater, water pump, fridge. And it's also got the little added feature of having a LED light inside that when a fuse blows, the LED light shows up. And also, it allows you to have the negative terminal stuff on the other side as well. So some of the fuse boxes nowadays don't have that negative, they've only got the positive side, and you run a negative bus bar. So that's got both. The only other thing here that I've got, because I'm switching my fridge and it takes a high amperature, so my switch panel up here, little 12 volt switch panel, can't run really high amperage current through it, and the fridge runs about 6 amps at startup. So I've shut that on and off with a relay. That's just a 12 volt 30 amp car relay in a little holder. So when I switch my fridge switch from up here off, it triggers this relay and then closes down the circuit. So much higher amperage you can run through there. My solar fuse is just a 15 or 10 amp fuse. I can't remember what I've got in here to run my solar. And the last thing is I've got a circuit breaker. So I've got a 250 amp circuit breaker for my inverter. So my inverter isn't actually set up yet, but when it is, it'll run off this. So basically if I trip anything out, because some of the big heavy gauge wires are going to run through the sides of the van here, so if anything trips out, because there is super high current running through there, that'll trip that isolator switch. So my control panel is where everything else switched. This is where I'm switching my pump and fridge, water heater, and the diesel heater. This is the panel for the water heater. That's my fresh and grey water level indicator that I installed in an early episode. And this is my inverter on and off, remote on and off switch. So the inverter is going to sit down here eventually. So instead of being able to have to go around all the other side of the van, turn it on and off, I can just switch it on here. The only other thing with this system is this battery monitor system. So it's a Renogy battery monitor. It's quite cool. You just set up the amp hour of your battery and it'll tell you with what you've got running, how many hours you have left, the wattage, and the amps that it's pulling out of the battery, and obviously your battery voltage. So for instance, if I turn my lights on now, so my lights run at 1.6 amps. So it's saying if I keep running like that, this will start going up and up and up, and it'll tell me how long I can run the battery at that percentage for. with 1.6 amps drawing out of the battery. So it's really handy. It's going to let me really monitor my battery a lot better than anything else. So this is the back of the system. You can see it is a bit of a spaghetti going on back here, but it is kind of organized in the fact that, see, this is my negative terminal and this is my positive terminal. So all the negative inputs go back here and it's all kept out of the way, nice and neat, so you don't see it on the front. And that's the positive terminal. So all the positive comes through this first. I think it's just a really nice way to do it. Make sure it's all nice and neat. So I have all your ugly wires behind kind of like a backboard, and then I only just show you necessities on the front. So one thing that I want to mention is that this whole seat here is actually removable. Because I packed everything in nice and tight, like my electronics and my battery and my water heater, if I ever have to replace anything in the future or repair anything, like remove the battery to replace it or change any electronics out, it's going to be pretty hard without removing it. So the way I've done it is, this is the everyday lid. I can lift up to check anything, turn off these switches. But then what I've done is I've made this whole top part also removable, so I can access the back of the wires as well. This whole box actually lifts up, and then I can actually take this whole thing out and repair any wires if anything starts catching on fire or whatever. But then I can also remove the battery, because if I tried to remove the battery from there, I wouldn't be able to do it. Okay, that is it for this video. I really hope you got some use watching me build the seats for the van. The only thing really left to do is to get the cushions upholstered. So that's a big long cushion here, cushion there, and the two backs. We've already bought the foam, but we will upholster them in another episode. Until then, if you like this video, remember to hit the like button below. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, if you'd like to see some more of this van build content, and we'll see you on the next one.